duty!
Hi, I'm Matt Davis. Welcome to Beeching's Ghosts. Today I'm at Bottasford. That sits on the Ambergate, Nottingham, Boston and Eastern Junction Railway. It was opened on the 15th of July 1850 and it's the only station in Leicestershire on this line, the line of which serves Liverpool to Norwich and Nottingham Skegness. It had 62,464 passengers in 2019-20, and since its opening in 1850 it was fraught with problems from objections of the Midland Railway. The station and the buildings that form part of the station are all designed by Nottingham architect Thomas Chambers Hine. This video is about the 22-mile Nottingham to Grantham line and the short incursion it makes into Leicestershire. Strictly speaking, the Leicestershire part of this has nothing to do with Beeching, nor is it a ghost, but it does have a rich history. The Midland Counties Railway was formed to compete against the Leicester and Swannington of 1832, who were undercutting Derbyshire, Nottinghamshire and Yorkshire coal prices. In 1839, the Midland Counties Railway opened a station in Nottingham at Carrington Street. Then, in 1844, the Midland Counties merged with other railways and were soon serving Birmingham, Leicester, Burton and Derby. The Midland Railway was born. An independent company was formed at the height of railway mania to supply Lancashire manufacturing and Nottinghamshire coal to the port of Boston. The line had intended to extend past Nottingham, but the 1846 Act was altered to a reduced length. Mining was also prevalent on this line, with coal at Cockgrave and iron at varying narrow gauge collieries via the Woolsthorpe branch at Nipton, Harston, Denton and others. Although the branch led to the main line into sidings named Bottasford, they were a considerable distance from the village. The line actually takes on two previously authorised routes and merges them into one, the Nottingham, Erewash and Ambergate and the Nottingham, Vale of Belvoir and Grantham railways to form the easy to remember Ambergate, Nottingham and Boston and Eastern Junction Railway. The line was authorised in July 1846. As with most railways of the time, they were replacing canals and buying them out as part of the legislation. The Ambergate was no exception and was required to change its name to the Nottingham and Grantham Railway and Canal Company upon completion of the payoff. By doing so, the railway were now a free market and could entertain offers to run over their line from other companies. Once operational, the Ambergate Railway had been offered a 4% return if their line was leased to the Midland and LNWR, which seemed favourable to the company but was rebuffed by shareholders, favouring the GNR, who matched the 4% offer. The GNR had been running their locomotives over the railway due to a lack of rolling stock available to the Ambergate company. The Midland was already sore from this, and in August 1852 the GNR advertised a faster London to Nottingham service than the Midland offered. As the Midland felt this was unfair after rejecting their offer, access in Nottingham was barred to the GNR, who had to terminate at Colic. In fact, they diverted the GNR train into a shed and removed the rails, which prompted the GNR to go to court but waited until May 1853 for a satisfactory conclusion. The Ambergate Company had an Act passed in July 1854 to enable a new line to connect to a new station in Nottingham at London Road, later named London Road Low Level, with a connection to the Midland. A further act from the same month allowed the GNR to lease the line from the Ambergate Company with a clause that Nottingham be completed within 5 years. It opened in October 1857 with an additional station at Nottingham Racecourse. The line ran parallel with the Midland, and the railway's connection to the Midland was severed in July 1857. In August 1846, the Midland extended beyond Nottingham to Lincoln via Newark, including stations at Carlton, Burton Joyce, Loudon and Thurgerton. Work on the Ambergate line commenced slowly due to a lack of investors available. By 1848, work had not progressed as best as expected, and an extension was granted in July 1849. A number of limbs were detracted from the plan, and the railway opened Grantham's first station connecting to Nottingham at Carrington Street, utilising the Midland Railway from Colic. Intermediate stations were built at Radcliffe, Bingham, Aslockton, Elton, Bottasford and Sedgebrook. The railway arrived in 1850, with the line bringing minerals to Bottasford sidings from workings behind Belvoir Castle via the Grantham Canal. Stations were designed by T.C. Hine, the great 19th century Nottingham architect. Bottasford's Victorian station and the level crossing keeper's cottage still exist, mostly unchanged in over 170 years. The Great Northern, building their Towns line from Peterborough to Retford, reached Grantham in 1852. The Ambergate Yard station closed as a consequence of gaining access to Great Northern Station. In return, Great Northern operated trains into Nottingham. In 1857, the new Ambergate extension past the removed Colic Junction, Nottingham Racecourse and into London Road opened. The GNR served this route fully from 1861. In 1871, a bill was presented to Parliament to run a new line from Newark to Leicester via Melton Mowbray. It would need to cross the track at Bottasford. When it reached the Lords in 1872, the Leicester and Melton section was redacted. In 1873, the GNR and the LNWR presented a bill again exploring the Melton route but through to Welham. In July, a previous bill from Sedgebrook to Barkston, Nottingham to Skegness, was approved. The intention was to continue to Lincolnshire without turning at Grantham. The Midland yet again blocked any attempt by the GNR to gain access to the coal yards, and in August 1875 the GNR opened their Derbyshire extension, which avoided Nottingham altogether. Whilst the Sedgebrook extension was being constructed, they built a huge marshalling yard at Colic for 1,150 wagons and opened stations at Gedling and at Bestwood and Arnold, which quickly changed its name to Daybrook. A further station on the Ambergate opened at Colic in 1878, alternating persistently with the name Netherfield. In 1874, the Newark to Nottingham line had been given royal assent. The line opened in 1878, creating a junction west of Bottasford. In May 1879, the Great Northern and London North Western Joint Railway opens to freight via Bottasford and Saxondale junctions. A south to east chord opens in September, as well as stations at Bingham Road, Barnstone and Harby. In December, the line completes Cottam and Red Mile stations. We're going to take a slight detour now and look in detail at the history of Bottasford. This section concentrates on everything within Leicestershire. The line opened on the 15th of July 1850, and Bottasford at once was serving the line with extensive sidings, not only for local produce but also the mining granted by the Duke of Rutland from the Belvoir estate. At the time, the iron was being shipped in by canal. When the Great Northern came, it first served Nottingham from Newark only, but soon established itself with signal cabins both at the northern section in anticipation of the joint Melton route with the LNWR, and also a signal box where the GNR joined the Ambergate line. As the joint line was built, a further signal box was added to the south to allow Nottingham trains access to Melton Mowbray and Peterborough without having to use the LNER lines via Grantham. An additional spur was added in September to allow iron freight via the Sedgebrook-Barkston line, also known as the Poacher line, toward Bourne and Lincoln. A new station to the south, named Bottasford New, was built with sidings. The station quickly changed to Bottasford South in May 1880. By now, Bottasford Junction has 4 signal boxes and another controlling the sidings and level crossings at Bottasford Station, and a further box with sidings at Bottasford South. Bottasford South closed in May 1882 due to massive underusage. When Bottasford South closed, so did its sidings, and Bottasford itself lost its temporary name of Bottasford East, but this name stayed on maps for many years to come. As trains were using the Saxondale branch, the south to west junction soon fell out of use. It became sidings in 1894, cut off at the south. Sometime after 1919, Bottasford's own signal box and sidings disappeared. As some cost-cutting exercises post-nationalisation, the joint lines were earmarked for closure and regular passenger services were withdrawn in 1953. Leicester summer specials to Skegness, Sutton-on-Sea and Mablethorpe utilised the lines and junctions. Bottasford West and North junctions were closed in December 1961, and the East Junction closed September 1962, the day after the last summer special return to Leicester. Following the closure of the Saxondale branch, British Rail reinstated the south to west route to allow continued use of the petroleum depot at the Air Ministry at Redmile. In December 1970, the Air Ministry siding closed and the south to west track was locked and taken out of use, removed entirely by 1973. Now we return to the main map where we have to go back in time. In 1880, as Bottasford South Station opened, Barnstone Lime Works, now Tarmac Cement Plant, added a railway to the joint line. In 1883, Woolsthorpe ironstone mining commences with their single-track line. Ironstone quarry lines will be a feature of a future video. Eastwell Sidings opens in 1885 and changes its name to Stathern Ironstone in 1887. In 1901, a colliery branch opens at Gedling. In the 1922 grouping, the Ambergate line joined the LNER. And in 1925, the Mapley Tunnel collapses and throws uncertainty on the future of the Derbyshire extension, which diverts to Nottingham via different routes. In 1938, with war looming, the Air Ministry opens a siding at Redmile. This would take delivery of materials required to build airstrips. Cottam Station closed in September 1939, but services had slowly been withdrawn since 1910. Woolsthorpe stepped up production during the war, but post-nationalisation and the financial straits BR found themselves in, many railways started to close prior to Beeching being appointed. 1951 saw the closures of Bingham Road and Redmile. Barnstone and Harby went in 1953, and on the Ambergate line, Sedgebrook closed 1956, and Huffham on the Towns line in 1957. Nottingham Racecourse Station closed in 1959, prior to the junction with the Midland being reconnected. The branch itself closed in favour of the original Midland line. The short-lived Cotgrave Colliery did not open until 1960, 4 months before the closure of the Mapley Tunnel, which also saw the closure of Gedling. Daybrook managed to hang on for a further 3 years. The 1960s were then consumed by all the points and boxes at Bottasford closing as the joint line wound down, having been earmarked for closure since 1953. Whilst Barnstone Limeworks continued in business, the sidings closed in 1962. Further closures of Daybrook and Barkston follow. Colwick Junction is reconnected as Barkston junctions are closed. The route now favours the Midland, and the London Road branch is closed. Grantham's original terminus spur is taken out of use as Barrowby signal box is closed in August 1968. In April 1970, the enormous Colwick marshalling yard is taken out of use. Today it is Victoria Retail Park. The Air Ministry siding closes, as does access to the Ambergate line. In February 1974, Woolsthorpe operations come to a close, and in May, Colic finally settles on the name of Netherfield and sticks with it. In 1976, Cotgrave Colliery tracks are removed, and in 1991 the remains of the Derbyshire extension, only open to feed Gedling Colliery, close. In 2003, after the loss of Barkston Junctions, Allington Junction adds a south to east chord for access to the Poacher Line from the East Coast Main Line. Hi, I'm Matt Davis and welcome to Beeching's Ghosts. Thanks for watching. Please comment or discuss your memories of these stations, lines, mines and marshalling yards. Don't forget to like and subscribe or click here for other videos. And please tell your friends. I'll be back soon with the Stamford and Essendine Railway. Today I'm in Bottasford.